Hello, friends. And now, Alabama is going through a sensitive moment. What will happen? Will it make it to the playoffs? Let's analyze this situation a bit. But first, if you like the channel, become a member and support the channel and get access to exclusive Alabama videos and badges. Alabama is heading towards the most delicate moment of its season, and the question hanging over Tuscaloosa, perhaps for the first time in a long time, is not just how the team will react, but who this team really is. The October sequence had given the feeling that the Tide had found its way again. For wins against ranked opponents, a strong away win against Georgia, a solid victory over Tennessee. It was the kind of trajectory that historically separates title contenders from those who are just in the conversation. But November demands a different price. And in recent weeks, Alabama has felt that bill coming due. The drop in performance was evident against South Carolina, when the team had to force a comeback, and then against a depleted LSU, in a game that inspired no confidence whatsoever. Then came Oklahoma, and there, at the moment when it most needed to rediscover its identity, Alabama simply wasn't Alabama. The offense retreated. The offensive line gave way. Ty Simpson lost the rhythm he had been building, and in the decisive minutes, the team failed in every detail that, from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer, had always defined the team's standard: execution, composure, focus. Now, the question is inevitable. Does Alabama have the courage to finish this job? Because at this moment, it's impossible to deny something is out of place. The turnovers against Oklahoma weren't isolated accidents. They were symptoms. Simpson seemed hesitant, forcing passes, feeling the pressure of a defense that made him see ghosts. 2 possessions in the fourth quarter with a chance to win ended in sacks. And the mistake in the first quarter, with the interception returned for a touchdown, stemmed from a completely open blitzer. It's the small details that separate the sensations of October from the teams that can withstand November. Small details that will decide the immediate future of this program. And then comes the uncomfortable reality. Everything Alabama has achieved so far rests on the shoulders of a single game. The Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare tonight, in an environment where the Tide has seen it all. Miracles, demons, improbable comebacks. Auburn is far from its peak, has a losing record, and only 1 win in the SEC, but that doesn't matter. A rivalry of this magnitude ignores standings, forgets logic, and doesn't respect favoritism. The question is another. Can this Alabama team play under pressure without collapsing in the most tense moments? The team has already shown that it is capable of competing with the elite, beating Tennessee with authority, and overcoming Georgia on hostile ground, but has also shown vulnerabilities that don't match playoff expectations. The passing game has become predictable. Defenses are reading the scheme more easily. The offensive line regressed precisely when it needed to assert itself. And the excessive reliance on Simpson, combined with the decline in running consistency, is beginning to take its toll. On the other side, Auburn arrives with a physical, aggressive defensive line and with an interim coach, DJ Durkin, who sees each week as a chance to shed the temporary label. He's had time to prepare something special. And Jordan-Hare, on nights like this, creates atmospheres that transform offensive lapses into complete collapses. That's why the big question hangs higher than ever. Is Alabama, today, closer to the team that defeated Tennessee by 17 points, or to the one that faded in the final 15 minutes against Oklahoma? What worked in October has become a burden. What seemed resolved after the victory over Georgia has returned to haunt the team. And what was imagined as a tranquil final stretch has turned into an existential test. If Alabama wants to reach the playoffs, it all depends on rediscovering its courage. The same courage that sustained the program for years, the same courage that pulled off improbable victories in November, the same courage that set this team apart from so many others on the national stage. And then comes the question that nobody in Tuscaloosa likes to hear, but which needs to be asked right now. Is Alabama still a national-level team, or is it dangerously flirting with a winter destination in Tampa? The Iron Bowl will answer that. Jordan-Hare doesn't forgive those who arrive weak. And for a team that lost its security at the most important moment of the year, the only certainty is that there is no more room for error. It's November, and great teams don't crumble now. They toughen up. They respond. They show courage. Does Alabama have that courage? We'll see. Alabama continues to spread talent throughout the NFL, and this weekend the story of another former Crimson Tide player could gain a new chapter. C.J. Dippre, the tight end who made his mark in Tuscaloosa before moving on to the next level, is about to finally make his professional league debut. After months of quiet work, adjustments, cuts, returns, and resilience, the New England Patriots promoted Dippre from the practice squad to the active roster, opening the door for him to face the Cincinnati Bengals this Sunday. It's a significant opportunity, especially considering the far from linear path Dippre has taken to get here. He wasn't drafted in 2025, but that didn't stop him from earning his place. He signed with the Patriots in May, faced the tough roster reduction during the preseason, and ended up being released. A few days later, he opted to return to the practice squad, a decision that requires humility, confidence, and above all, patience. Now, this cycle of persistence is rewarded with the chance to actually wear the New England uniform in an official game. The timing of the promotion also says a lot about the team's confidence in him. With Austin Hooper still out after the concussion that kept him out of the victory over the New York Jets, and with Hunter Henry carrying a significant load, 34 receptions for 122 yards and 4 touchdowns in 11 games, the team needed depth at the position. Dippre arrives to fill exactly that gap, and he arrives prepared. At Alabama, he accumulated 32 receptions for 443 yards in 2 seasons after starting his college career at Maryland. He wasn't just efficient. He was versatile, physical, disciplined, and consistent, characteristics that always catch the attention of coaches in the NFL. For a player like Dippre, this potential debut represents more than statistics. It represents validation. It represents the definitive transition from prospect to professional. This represents proof that the work done at the Crimson Tide, in an environment that demands daily excellence, prepared him not only technically, but mentally for this type of moment. Alabama has this history. It molds players who know how to resist, adjust, and thrive, even when the journey requires unexpected steps. And it's worth remembering, the NFL is a league where opportunities arise quickly, but only those who are ready remain. Dippre will have the chance to show that he belongs, that he can contribute immediately, and that he deserves to be among the 53 on the main roster. For Alabama fans, watching another former player reach this stage is always a source of pride, not simply for his presence in the NFL, but for the values he carries with him, formed within a program that teaches how to compete in any circumstance. Let's see how this player performs in the NFL. Bryce Young's performance against the Atlanta Falcons wasn't just a great game. It was one of those moments that reshapes the timeline of a college program and makes it clear, for those who still doubted, why Alabama continues to produce quarterbacks capable of marking eras in the NFL. The 448 passing yards he threw in the 30-27 overtime victory not only set a new Carolina Panthers record, breaking Cam Newton's 432 yards, but also placed Young in a space reserved for a select few former Crimson Tide players. Within the history of NFL quarterbacks trained at Alabama, the performance ranks as the 4th greatest passing game by a former Tide quarterback. And more than that, it adds Young's name to a list that already includes distinct legends from different eras: Joe Namath, Richard Todd, and Tua Tagovailoa. Each marked their generation. Young, little by little, is beginning to mark his. The list of the greatest passing yards games by alumni of the program shows the weight of this achievement. Joe Namath, an icon of the Jets and an undisputed reference from the classic era, leads the ranking with his 496 yards in 1972, a game that became part of the league's mythology. Tua Tagovailoa, representing the new generation of quarterbacks molded by modern Alabama, appears with two monstrous performances of 469 and 466 yards. Richard Todd, an underrated name outside the state but respected by those who know the history, has 2 games above 440 yards. Now, right below them, is Bryce Young with his 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, something that makes the performance even more brilliant. He did this not by trying to prove himself at any cost, but by making mature decisions, commanding the offense with composure, and showing the kind of ability to pile yards that many believed existed since the time he lifted the Heisman Trophy in Tuscaloosa. The record in Panthers history, breaking a mark set by Cam Newton when he was still reinventing the franchise, gives symbolic weight to Young's night. Cam arrived in the NFL throwing for 422 yards in his debut and, a week later, for 32. He was a phenomenon conquering the league. Young, in turn, does this at a completely different moment in the franchise's history, but with an equally remarkable impact. He officially becomes the owner of the best passing display in the team's history. The context in the broader Alabama landscape also matters. Young becomes the 4th former Crimson Tide player to reach at least 400 yards in an NFL game, something that, in itself, shows the evolution of the position within the program over the decades. Before, Alabama produced historic defenders, dominant running backs, and heavy offensive lines. Today, it produces quarterbacks who break records in sequence. And when you look even further beyond the walls of the college program, Young joins names with roots deeply connected to the state of Alabama, such as Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Nick Mullins, and Bobby Thomason, all players who surpassed the 400-yard mark at some point in their careers. But what Young is beginning to build has another kind of significance. It's a confirmation that he's not just associated with Alabama by birth or high school, but as a direct product of the Crimson Tide, shaped by a system that today delivers QBs prepared for the most demanding scenario in American football. The performance against Atlanta doesn't solve everything in Young's career, nor erase the difficulties he faced in the transition to the NFL. But it represents a clear milestone, one that divides a trajectory into before and after. He showed the ceiling that many expected, the talent that was never hidden, and the type of game that puts him side by side with some of the most important names Alabama has ever produced for the position. If this is any indication of what's to come, then the Crimson Tide has even more reason to be proud. And Young, now officially the owner of one of the greatest games ever thrown by a quarterback with Alabama roots, enters a historic place where few have a seat. We hope Ty will be as great a player in Alabama as Young was. Leave your comments.